Are you performing in the Fringe Festival? Why, yes. Yes, I am. Then you must not be any good. This woman went to 500 Fringe shows and mine's the only play to go over the edge? Really? All right. Let's go through some of the more popular Winnipeg Fringe shows from over the years. Perhaps she missed something. Did she see Captain Vaseline versus the radioactive slut bunnies from hell? Shakespeare must not be used to teach seduction. Shakespeare must not. I wonder if this woman has seen this book. Shakespeare and the Art of Verbal Seduction. Let me read the back cover. This book contains Shakespeare's best seducing line. Learn the art of seduction from the greatest seducer of all time. But if I have the power to brainwash an entire audience and send them out on the feet are cheery, non-sexual predators, why am I wasting all this power performing a Fringe show? Shouldn't I at least have my own religion? There's a legendary story about the Nobel Prize-winning playwright Harold Pinter and a letter he received from an audience member. Dear Mr. Pinter, before I can begin to understand your play, I need you to answer 3 questions about your characters. Who are they? What do they want? And are they insane? Pinter wrote back, before I can respond to your letter about my play, I need you to answer 3 questions. Who are you? What do you want? And are you insane? Good evening, and welcome to Teaching the Fringe, my first autobiographical show. I'm Keir Cutler, by the way. It's strange, because I do solo shows on the Fringe circuit, and most solo shows on the Fringe are autobiographical. In fact, if you were to only see Fringe shows, you might conclude that all solo shows are always autobiographical. That wouldn't be a good thing. Not for me, anyway. As I play a sadistic priest, a crazed Beethoven impersonator, even a lawyer. And in 3 of my most successful plays, a pompous, self-deluded, alcoholic, lecherous Shakespeare professor. I've worn this denim jacket as a costume across the country, in 10 Canadian cities from Halifax to Victoria. Also New York, in every performance of the character, now more than 200. It's originally my mother's. It's true. It's one of those roll-up-the-sleeves woman things. Turns out, unroll the sleeves and what fits a 5'7" woman is a perfect fit for a 6'5" man. Unlike me, this jacket has never received a bad review. Oh, it's often praised. The Off-Broadway Review in New York said, Cutler's blue jacket spoke volumes that couldn't begin to be expressed by the spoken word. According to at least one critic, this jacket could be performing on its own. So, I'm in Saskatoon. Or I was in Saskatoon, but the convention of autobiographical solo shows is speak in the present tense about things that happened in the past. So I am in Saskatoon. I never intended to go to Saskatoon in my life, but that's where I am for the 5th consecutive summer, performing at the Fringe Festival. Turns out, it's a great place. In the summer. It's a city, sort of. But it's so tiny, it feels like you're in the country. It's built on, it does. It's built on this beautiful river with miles of bike paths, gorgeous bridges crossing back and forth. That's why it's called the Paris of the Prairies. That's not even a joke. As usual, I'm having a great time. when I get a letter. This letter. My letter from an audience member. With a note from the head of the Winnipeg Fringe Festival. Keir, I wanted to pass this on to you. I think you should have an opportunity to respond. Your show touched a nerve. Touched a nerve. It's 3 pages long. Look at this. It's 3 feet long. It's not touching a nerve. It's from Winnipeg. Well, I just came from Winnipeg. I just performed my monologue Teaching As You Like It there. But that can't be the show that touched the nerve. I had great attendance. 5-star review in the Winnipeg Free Press. A couple of standing ovations. They held me over with an extra performance. Wait. Can touch the nerve be a good thing? Hey, I loved your play. It really touched a nerve. Of course not. Touched a nerve is a polite way of saying seriously pissed somebody off. Anyway, no one handwrites a 3-page letter about how much they liked your show. Someone likes your show, they congratulate you outside the venue afterwards. Spread the good word at the beer tent. Maybe even request to be your friend on Facebook. Don't touch the nerve. This is going to be bad. This is going to ruin my day. The only real question is how many days in the future is it also going to ruin? Look, there's no date. None. Whoever wrote this forgot to put a date. Or deliberately didn't put one. 3 pages, single-spaced, handwritten, but no date. This letter is timeless. Who wrote this? A woman. Never heard of her. Oh, I can't read this. What am I going to do? I'll get other people to read. Other performers. I'm at the Fringe surrounded by performers. I'll get them to read it, and I can watch their faces as they read. That'll give me some idea how significant this is. I hand the letter consecutively to a spoken word artist from New Zealand, a British performance poet, a Colorado monologuist, a Canadian solo artist, an Australian mime, and a South African storyteller. Basically, the United Nations examines the document. Each of these artistes start to read the letter, and very early on, they raise their eyebrows. In one case, a jaw drops open. And they stay this way to the end of the letter. They finish, they fold it up, they hand it back to me and are momentarily speechless. Then they all come up with more or less the same supposedly reassuring response. Well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad compared to what? I gotta read this. Just the first page. Just so I get the basic idea, then stop. Put the letter away, maybe never read the rest of it. Well, sure, I learned that from TJ. TJ Dawe, the god of the Fringe. He directed Teaching As You Like It. Did a great job. He's a great guy. Everybody loves him. TJ directed what you're watching right now. For example, I wrote the line, TJ's a great guy. Everybody loves him. But TJ directed me how to say it. TJ says, never read a bad review. This is like a bad review. It'll seldom help. It'll definitely hurt. Most bad reviews offer no feedback. They're just character assassinations of the performers. Reading a bad review might even screw up future performances. Just read enough to get the basic idea, then stop. There's no need to experience each bamboo shoot under each fingernail. So that's the plan. Here in Saskatoon, in the present. Just read a little. Dear Nick. Dear Nick. That's an informal opening. Suggesting familiarity with the reader, whose name is Nick. Kowalchuk. He's head of the Winnipeg Fringe Festival. Surely this should be Dear Mr. Kowalchuk. Already a disconcerting introduction. I attended the first Winnipeg Fringe Festival in 1988. This 3-page letter begins in 1988. Whatever has to be told to Nick about me has to go back decades, to last century, to the 80s. Well, you see why I didn't want to read this? You see why other people read it? Somehow something I did can only be explained or complained about by dredging up 1988. That's ancient history. I attended the first Winnipeg Fringe Festival in 1988 and have attended every year since then, averaging 25 shows per year. That's 20 years times 25 shows a year. 500 Fringe shows. This woman's an expert on the Fringe. I never even heard of the Fringe in 1988. I may have heard of the original Edinburgh Fringe in Scotland. No, I'm not even sure I heard of that. First time I remember even thinking about the Fringe was the mid-1990s. I was a grad student in Detroit at Wayne State University. My mother called me and asked if I knew it was possible to travel right across the country each summer performing on the Canadian Fringe Festival circuit. It was news to me. It sounded interesting. It sounded like fun, but that was the first I'd heard of it. This woman was attending Fringe shows years before that. All right, let's read some more. Let's at least read till she mentions me. There are good plays, bad plays, serious, informative, and funny plays. There are raunchy plays, plays with sexual innuendo, and explicit plays, plays that are right on the edge. That's what makes the Fringe fun. However, amazing thing about the word however. You could go through your entire life never hearing a sound, just have your ears turned on the word however. No one's really ever said a single thing you need to hear unless it was preceded by the word however. I'm not a racist. However. You know, I don't think I could ever strangle anyone with my bare hands. However. I welcome your feedback on my play. However. Have you ever heard the term bowdlerization or bowdlerization? It's a form of censorship, where rather than banning an artistic work, you simply surgically remove or modify the objectionable passages and render the work palatable. Well, the term comes from Harriet Bowdler, who in 1822 created the family Shakespeare. Oh, quite by chance, I see that was rare collector's edition. Let's see if there's anything interesting in the preface. That Shakespeare is the first of dramatic writers will be denied by few. However, it must also be acknowledged that many defects are to be found. Many words and expressions occur which are so indecent in nature as to render it highly desirable they should be erased. If the profaneness and obscenity of Shakespeare's unbridled fancy could be obliterated, then Shakespeare's transcendent genius would undoubtedly shine. Finally, Shakespeare obliterated all unbridled fancy from the canon, altering the plays considerably. Hopefully his suicide is changed to an accidental drowning. Lady Macbeth's out damn spot changed to out crimson spot. Anytime a character in Shakespeare exclaims God, changed to heavens. Mercutio's reading of the clock in Romeo and Juliet. The body hand of the dial is now upon the prick of noon. Changed to the hand of the dial is now upon the point of noon. Finally, Shakespeare became the top-selling version of Shakespeare in 19th century England. Harriet unfortunately had to attribute her painstaking work to her brother Thomas. Since women in 19th century England, well, they weren't supposed to be able to identify unbridled fancy, Shakespearean or otherwise. Harriet Bowdler had seen my play and written this letter. She wouldn't have signed it. She would have had her brother sign it. So we've all come a long way. However, this year, one play fell over the edge. This is Keir Cutler's Teaching As You Like It. Fell over the edge. It's called The Fringe, as in the outer edge. It's called The Periphery, the extreme in relation to conventional, middle of the road. My wife and I have a subscription. She watches the plays. I sleep through them. Theater. The Fringe is supposed to counteract that and push the boundaries. This woman went to 500 Fringe shows and mine's the only play to go over the edge? Really? All right. Let's go through some of the more popular Winnipeg Fringe shows from over the years. Perhaps she missed something. Did she see Captain Vaseline versus the radioactive slut bunnies from hell? How close was that to going over the How about Penis de Milo? Suck my butt. Live sex show, lawless. Rectums, ejaculations, and exhibitions. 3 young Hitlers in a baggie. Sex and sensibility. Stand up, homo. Nymphomania, the happy cunt. Oh, incidentally, Nymphomania and the happy cunt, 2 separate plays, same theme. Now, did she see the happy cunt? How can the happy cunt not be over the edge? Isn't that the purpose of calling a play the happy cunt to be over the edge? What part of the happy cunt did she understand? I hope somebody wrote a 3-page letter complaining about the happy cunt. This letter is to inform you of the serious action I am taking against Cutler and his play. Serious action? Against a fringe show? What does that mean? What does she do? What can she do? But if she didn't like the play, there's all kinds of opportunities in Winnipeg for anyone to express their views. CBC Manitoba website provides unlimited space for audience reviews. The Winnipeg Free Press, they were practically begging for audience comments. Or the Jenny Review. The Jenny Review is a Winnipeg Fringe newspaper just for audience reviews. The entire run in Winnipeg, there wasn't a single negative comment posted anywhere. Now this. Anyway, Teaching As You Like It's not a new show. This is the 2nd summer of performances. The 2nd summer. What, the play was so bad last year, I said, let's bring it back for another tour. Edmonton. Teaching As You Like It was held over in Edmonton. Edmonton's the oldest fringe in the country. The mayor of Edmonton came to my show. The mayor. He loved Teaching As You Like It. Left the theater saying, great play, great play. People heard him. They came and told me. They didn't come and say, oh, the mayor's just gone to take serious action again. They could have. We think a mayor does at City Hall. He takes serious action. I received an email from a psychologist who saw the play at the Toronto Fringe. A psychologist. This is a man with a brain. He loved Teaching As You Like It. He treats abusive priests. He wants a video of the play. Show his criminal patients all the ways they rationalize their criminal behavior. Serious action. Video. What the hell is serious action anyway? Be dragged through the streets. Boiled in oil. Fed to crocodiles. Because I touched in her. Can't be doing more of this. I'm very thin-skinned. Things bug me. It's hereditary. My father collapsed from rage on the golf course. Missing it? He missed a 4-inch putt. I gotta be careful. If I read this once, I'll probably read it over and over. I'll obsess over it. End up doing a show about it. In the present tense. You start to see this. You and me, the audience actor, is a confrontation. That. Upset. And this is an autobiographical piece. I'm not method acting here. Okay, if I were performing in some other play, in some other venue, and the script called for my character to get upset, and I were to use this serious action letter to get myself upset, that would be method acting. But I'm not in another play, I'm in this one. The letter's right here. It's real. This is the ultimate NAMY. Oh yes, NAMY. N-A-M-E. Negative Audience Member Experience. Oh yes, it's a theatrical term. I may be. Every Fringe performer has them, nabbies. This letter's nothing new. Well, the letter is. We don't get 3-page handwritten letters from audience members. But bizarre behavior? Pretty much all the time. What is it with you people? Not all of you people, just the ones that must take serious action against fringe shows. All right, let me ask you this. What would you say is the percentage of people in society who are crazy? And I don't mean running down the street, screaming at cars, pulling their hair out. I mean just not sane. The fringe element. There's no wrong or right answer, just judging from your experience of planet Earth. What percentage are nuts? 50%. That's insane. You couldn't walk down the street, you'd be attacked from all sides. Come on, give me a reasonable number. Can't be 50%.
10%.
Okay, 10%. Even if it were 10%, that would mean if you perform for 100 people, 10 of them would be nuts. 10. Realize the number of negative audience member experiences a fringe performer is likely to have? If he tours across the country for 3,000 people, that is 10%, that's 300 nutcases. All right. I did my first Fringe Festival in 1999. Not back to the 80s, but still last century. And that's when I had my first negative audience member experience. Actually, my first NABY happened before my first Fringe. I was photocopying programs and flyers for my new solo play, Teaching Shakespeare a Parody, debuting shortly at the 1999 Montreal Fringe Festival. And a woman photocopying at the machine beside me, who I'd never seen before in my life, well, she happened to look over my shoulder and see what I was doing and asked, "Are you performing in the Fringe Festival?" "Why, yes. Yes, I am." "Then you must not be any good." Excuse me? I didn't say anything, but my mind went, "Excuse me?" I wasn't getting insulted for a show I'd done. I was getting insulted for a show I was going to do. I'm pretty sure she never seen me on stage, but she saw that word fringe, so obviously I must suck. What do you say to that? Nothing. We just continued photos. I couldn't even offer her a flyer. That was my earliest NABY. So I really should be well prepared for this letter. At least whoever wrote this saw my show. But let me be objective. I have to admit that when people complain about my plays, at least recently, for the most part, they attend them. Hold on, I've gone too far. Attendance is not sufficient. Just because someone attended a show doesn't mean they actually experienced the show. How about this? A few years ago, I was performing my play, Teaching Witchcraft. And during a particular performance, a woman ran out of the theater in absolute shock and horror, announcing to anyone who would hear, "He's teaching witchcraft in there." Now, there were two problems with this. One, I wasn't teaching witchcraft. My play, Teaching Witchcraft, is the medieval Roman Catholic Church grossly exaggerated, if not invented, the threat of witchcraft so they could act out their misogynistic tendencies and torture and murder innocent women. So the theme of the play was entirely missed. But secondly, and more important, if you're a person who might run out of a theater exclaiming, "He's teaching witchcraft in there," why would you attend a play called Teaching? Is that sane behavior? Does that fall into the 90% of people behave sanely? Well, these are the kind of enigmas we performers deal with. They're complex enigmas. Puzzles within puzzles within puzzles. It's a labyrinth of confusing motivations that you, as audience members, present to us performers. You have to understand that when you're watching a play, the play is also watching you. At least the performers are. At least I am. Let me tell you, very often there's quite a show going on out there. And what a cast of characters. I just wish you guys would provide a program with bios, because I never know exactly who's out there watching, misinterpreting, reacting. You know what you're thinking? Hey, no one's got a gun to your head. If you don't like being in front of an audience, don't do it. You think this is a choice? You think people choose to act? People who act are in desperate need of approval they can't find in real life. Well, take me. I was firstborn, prince of the household. I was paraded around the home. I was the show. Hey, look at Keir. Here's Keir. Hooray for Keir. Then when I turned 2, my mother had twins. Twins. Suddenly, the baby Keir show is over. Metaphorically, I went from Broadway to Saskatoon. This wasn't summer bike riding fringe festival Saskatoon. This was 50 below, winter wasteland Saskatoon. Suddenly, my mother's too tired from the twins to pick me up. My father escapes to take up golf. I'm all but abandoned. Everything that was wonderful in my life is instantly destroyed by the arrival of those 2 little monsters. That's why I'm here today. That's why I need an audience. That's why I need you. My inner child is a rejected 2-year-old craving affection. Almost everything relates to that. All right, here's a fringe experience that encapsulates my entire life. 9 years ago in Montreal, there was this extraordinarily strange woman who got her kicks out of ruining classical music concerts and theater plays with wild, inappropriate laughter. Because she seemed so meek, she could almost always talk her way into a free ticket. And with bursts of hysterical laughter, she'd ruin what for her was a free concert or show. Or at least ruin it until security could find her and remove her. Now, being the nut magnet that I am, one day she shows up outside my theater and scams a free ticket to my show from my mother. I knew none of this, of course, when I come on stage, but very early on in my performance, I hear someone laughing. When no one else is laughing. When there's absolutely nothing funny. It is very distracting. Each time I reach a serious section of the play, there's this wild, inappropriate laughter, and always from the same audience member. I'm confused. I realize, wait a second, maybe this person is having delayed reactions. She must be catching on to funny things from earlier in the play. Okay. Well, now I take this as a compliment and continue. So this woman is completely failing to ruin my show. There's some part of her who wants to ruin whatever show she's at. If laughter can't do it, well, she'll find some other way. Just a couple of minutes left in my performance, she stands up and announces, "I have to leave!" And she says this over and over and over, completely halting everything. There's all kinds of room to easily make it to the aisle and out of the theater. She makes each person stand up by repeating to them, "I have to leave! I have to leave! I have to leave!" She makes it to the aisle and turns to me. "I have to leave!" I nod and direct her towards the exit. This she takes as an invitation to join me on stage. She marches right between me and the audience and announces, "I have to leave." Well, she clearly has to leave. But apparently not so badly that she's ever actually going to leave. It's not easy, and it takes a couple of minutes. But I eventually guide her off stage and out of the building. I come back on, and for the rest of the performance, we all hear loud banging on the exit door. "I have to leave!" Okay. Now that story. If the performer on stage, me, is a rejected 2-year-old, the people in the audience become Mummy. And in this case, Mummy was in the audience. And the woman yelling, "I have to leave," grabbing all the focus, the twins. And Mummy gave her a free ticket. Not projecting, this happened. There's no psychology in this. These are facts. Now, we all know how high the stakes are. Let's return to that. This letter is to inform you of the serious action I am taking against Cutler and his play. I was appalled as Teaching As You Like It unfolded, and I realized it could be used as a step-by-step textbook for the luring and seduction of young girls. What? A textbook for the luring and seduction of young girls? Who's going to use this textbook? The audience. Let me get this straight. My play about a loser teacher who pathetically falls for an underage student is going to be used by my audience as a textbook. In other words, members of my audience, members just like you, would like to lure and seduce young girls. You just can't figure out how to do it. So you need a textbook. That's apparently why you're here. We're here for my last play, why you attend the Fringe. According to this letter, at least some of you are here hoping to learn different kinds of criminal behavior. Because this woman believes you can't get anywhere else. Incidentally, there already are textbooks on the subject. All my plays are based on research. Teaching As You Like It's no different. This is the third play in my Teaching Shakespeare trilogy. In each of these plays, my professor character fails and falls as low as he can get, to the next play where he fails and falls even lower. It's sort of a reverse Rocky. Well, by teaching As You Like It, I need my professor character to get as low as he can possibly ever get. What could be lower than a substitute high school teacher in love with an underage student? Nothing. So I went to the library in search of a textbook. Found a great one. Here it is. The Lecherous Professor. Published in 1984. 4 years before this woman started attending the Fringe. This is a textbook of sexual harassment of students by teachers, with case studies and step-by-step analysis. And you can find this informative book in most libraries or online. You no longer have to come to me to learn your code. You can actually read in the comfort of your home how it's done. Wait a second. Maybe some of you can't read. Maybe that's the point of this letter. Illiterate people who lust after underage girls are attending Fringe shows hoping to learn the art of seduction. You can't get this information any other way. Now I get this lady's point. Let's read on. Step by step, Cutler described his attraction to his 15-year-old student. Cutler described how Cutler paid extra attention to her in class. How Cutler met her after school to help her with her assignments. How Cutler convinced her to sneak out of her home to meet him at night. Well, I see what she's getting at. This is the famous CSI effect. CSI, you know the TV show? They've been accused of giving away secrets to criminals. That's what she's accusing me of. All right, let's go through these accusations. How Cutler paid extra attention to her in class. Extra attention in class. Well, certainly no teacher would think of that without a textbook. How Cutler met her after school to help her with her assignments. Ingenious. After school. I hope you're taking notes. Sorry. Mental notes. How Cutler convinced her to sneak out of her home to meet him at night. At night, of course, that's the key. Without my textbook, you'd meet in broad daylight and be spotted. You must wait for the cover of dark. She's actually contending that these three things are unknown information worthy of a textbook. Page 2. I was deeply disturbed and angered that Cutler used the Fringe as a platform to instruct in the method of a teacher seducing a student. Well, she got me there. Oh, I remember before writing Teaching As You Like It, I was thinking, I've always wanted to instruct teachers in the method of seducing students, but where could I? The Fringe! I felt for the teachers in the audience for this slur on their professionalism. Wait. There were teachers in the audience? What the hell were they doing there? Oh, they must have been there for my textbook. Well, she can't be them. They're there for my textbook. That's not a slur. That's providing a service. She must mean there were other teachers in the audience. Teachers who didn't need to learn how to lure and seduce. Teachers who could read. Or think. A slur on them. But wouldn't the slur on them be from the teachers in the real world who actually seduce their students? How can a play about a serious crime being perpetrated in every province and state in North America be a slur. Alas, this woman is a postmodern philosopher. Absolutely. Are you familiar with postmodernism? Postmodernism is the philosophy where if you claim to understand it, you've misunderstood. There's absolutely no agreement as to what the main features of postmodernism are. According to some, all, or none of the postmodernists, history is nothing but one person's version of reality. There's no objective truth out there somewhere. Facts don't exist, and we will never know what's real or what's imaginary. Real or imaginary? That's this letter. Does this woman understand she was at a theater play? Well, I know she claims to have seen 500 Fringe shows, but look at the letter. It's all Cutler this, and Cutler that. And Cutler described his attraction to his 15-year-old student. Cutler didn't describe his attraction to anyone. Cutler wasn't in the play. That's why it's called a play. I was playing someone else, but not at the moment. At the moment, I'm playing Cutler. And according to Cutler, the theme of this postmodern letter is that theater doesn't exist. Fiction doesn't exist. Characters certainly don't exist. And Anthony Hopkins is a cannibal. I felt for the teenagers in the audience being told that sexual assault was normal. I wrote a play to tell teenagers that sexual assault was normal. That's not the way I remember it. You know what? We got the writer-performer here. We've got the jacket. Let's look at some of what I said. All right, hold on. I must get into character. There you go. The majority of teacher-student sexual liaisons are swept under the rug. That's all I'm asking. Treat me like the majority. Rosalind could have given me a reason for breaking it off, instead of incessantly repeating, "But I'm only 15. Juliet was 14, and Romeo and Juliet's the greatest love story ever told. What does that tell you? Socrates, the Socrates, he fell in love with a boy prostitute in a brothel. His love was so total, his desire for union so complete, that he bought the child and made him his friend and student and lover. That's true love. Now I to be condemned for following in the footsteps of Socrates? Maybe what I need is a giant neon sign on stage flashing irony. That'd be awfully expensive. I'm not going to carry all this stuff across the country. I got these books. I got this pole. I'm going to carry a giant neon sign. Could you guys help me out? If you see someone in the audience who's obviously misinterpreted my play, writing a 3-page letter, couldn't you just whisper to them? He's being ironic. I felt for those with abused backgrounds who are already shamed, humiliated, and traumatized. Abused backgrounds? What the hell was with the audience that day? According to this letter, we got teachers who came to learn from my textbook. We got these other teachers offended by the slur of my textbook. We got all these teenagers being groomed by my textbook. Now we got abused people being further shamed and humiliated by my textbook. This woman was the only normal person in the crowd. I guess those poor victims of abuse that came to my play, they must have come to see firsthand where their abusers had learned their step-by-step tricks. Must have been late in the Fringe Festival. If only they came to one of the earlier shows. Then they wouldn't have been shamed and humiliated. They would have been fortified, forewarned, and protected, which was the purpose of writing Teaching As You Like It in the first place. And this woman would be praising me. There'd be no letter. There'd be a box of chocolates. Timing is everything. And I felt for the audience members as a whole, who were themselves being seduced into believing that sexual predation is acceptable. The audience members as a whole were being seduced. The whole audience. What am I, Charles Manson? Talk about powers of persuasion. But if I have the power to brainwash an entire audience and send them out of the theater cheering on sexual predators, why am I wasting all this power performing a Fringe show? Shouldn't I at least have my own religion? Oh, wait. We just read about abused people being further shamed and humiliated. Now she's saying they were also being seduced. She must be. They were part of the audience as a whole. Wow. How did I manage to traumatize people and seduce them at the same time? Isn't it usually one before the other? Not with me. I can do both simultaneously. That's an amazing feat. As far as I know, never before accomplished in the history of theater. You know, the deeper I get in this letter, the better my play sounds. This letter is the Fringe equivalent of a Nobel Prize, which takes us directly back to Harold Pinter, the audience member who couldn't understand his play, and the three questions. 1, who am I? I'm Cutler. 2, what do I want to respond to this letter? 3, am I insane? If I'm not, this letter will certainly get me there. I'm already a 2-year-old trapped in an adult body. I did have one borderline bonkers incident in my past. There were extenuating circumstances, but nevertheless, if I'm interested in full disclosure in this autobiographical play, all right, here's my confession. I performed during a brutal heat wave in the middle of August at the New York International Fringe Festival in the worst venue in the universe. For all we know, there's probably Fringe festivals in other planets. There's no way their theater spaces are worse than this one. It was a filthy, grimy, dusty storage room with no air conditioning, no washrooms, no dressing rooms, no lounge area, no stage lights, and no stage. Festival, they threw together a rickety makeshift stage which shook from side to side and felt like it was going to collapse at any moment. Now, even though I'd won an overall excellence award at the previous New York Fringe for my play Teaching Shakespeare, due to the suffocating sweatbox heat, the viciously uncomfortable folding chairs, and the totally unsellable title in New York, Teaching Detroit, I had single-digit audiences the entire run. I was lucky I had anyone. At the start of one performance, so I very carefully stepped upon this shaky stage. During my opening line, I'm interrupted by a loud yawn. I look, and a guy in the audience is doing this. And he continues doing it throughout the show. We take short breaks of about a minute. During the breaks, he sighs heavily, and he rocks back and forth. He's in the middle of the front row. 5 or 6 people in the crowd are watching him the whole time. There's nothing in my play even remotely as interesting as this guy. I did not handle this well. It'd been a very tough festival. The unbearable heat was getting to me. Obviously, I should have stopped the play and improvised some sort of scene between a disruptive student and a teacher and comically worked to get some of the attention back on me in my play. But instead, I petulantly race through the rest of my lines. I take a quick bow, and then instead of exiting the stage, I step off the front. And the next thing I remember, I am chasing the yawner out of the theater and down the street. I get close up to ground. I come to my senses and back off. And the yawner escapes into the New York night. And I've regretted it ever since. Because 3 weeks later was September 11th, 2001. My venue was no more than a few blocks from the World Trade Center. And I'm not a racist. However, this guy, the yawner, as far as I could see, he looked olive skin. So odds are he was one of the 19 hijackers scoping the area. And if I'd confronted him, I might have single-handedly prevented 9/11. Terrorist is always a terrorist, whether ruining my Fringe show or destroying the Twin Towers. The Twin. Okay, so when we looked at the letter, got the basic idea, so we just put it away. There's no need to experience any more of this. We don't know what serious action is. Well, it's obviously an item of threat. Possibly. How do I know that? Don't tell TJ. Oh yes, the entire audience has been seduced. Cutler's portrayal also perverts Shakespeare. Perverts Shakespeare. That's the most unkindest cut of all. If only this woman could see the CBC Saskatchewan website and a certain review which they put online, which makes it true. I quote from the CBC. Cutler is the all-knowing Shakespeare guru of the Canadian Fringe Festival circuit. Many performers are intimidated by even engaging in conversation about Shakespeare in his presence. Quote. That is so true. It's lonely at the top of Mount Shakespeare. I cannot tell you how many times I have walked into a dressing room, lounge area, even a local saloon. A crowd of performers has suddenly fallen silent. Whatever Shakespearean intricacies they were discussing stopped in the presence of the all-knowing Shakespeare guru, me, Cutler. And this letter says I pervert Shakespeare. Rosalind in William Shakespeare's As You Like It. No, she's going to lecture me on Shakespeare. But I have a PhD in theater. But my thesis wasn't about Shakespeare. It was about sports. Yeah, sports on stage. I stayed away from Shakespearean University. Well, the people who teach Shakespearean University, they're all nuts. So let the lecture begin. Rosalind in William Shakespeare's As You Like It is a proactive, creative character who helps people. Cutler's irresponsible teacher character, if it is just a character, uses deception but does not accept responsibility for anything. Shakespeare must not be used to teach seduction. Shakespeare must not. I wonder if this woman has seen this book. Shakespeare and the Art of Verbal Seduction. Let me read the back cover. This book contains Shakespeare's best seducing line. Learn the art of seduction from the greatest seducer of all time. Teaching as you like it is insidious, damaging, and a violation. Violation? I thought my play was a textbook. Can a textbook be a violation? Of course it can. You remember in Texas just a few years ago, there was that biology textbook that was banned by a local school board. It was found to include diagrams of sex organs. That was a violation. I get what she means. Don't teach sex and biology. Don't teach seduction in Shakespeare. Got it. Teaching as you like it seeks to undermine the law. She's right again. When I write a play, my goal is always to undermine the law. The laws to protect our youth, laws against burglary, assault, murder. I don't care what the law is, I just want to undermine it. Well, it's a systematic process. I'm dismantling the pillars of society, hoping to bring total world collapse. Why else would I write? Uh-oh. Page 3. This has got to be the serious action thing. I realize the Fringe does not censor plays. However, teaching as you like it promotes the idea that sexual predation of underage girls is acceptable. So I am taking the serious action of reporting Keir Cutler to Child Find Manitoba, provincial chapter of Child Find Canada, a national organization assisting in the search for and prevention of missing children. As long as any artist thinks it's okay to seduce a child, we need child protection agencies to monitor them. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to fringing next year. She's coming back. Heavens. Child Find confirms receiving this letter. They've yet to say what they're going to do with it. Do you know what the French call expurgated books like the Family Shakespeare? Les livres chartrés, or castrated books. Isn't that a better name? The Family Shakespeare would be the castrated Shakespeare. Castration is so much more in keeping with Harriet Bowdler and this woman's real intention. Keir, I wanted to pass this on to you. I think you should have an opportunity to respond. Your show touched a nerve. Madam, I read your letter, would very much like to reply. But before I can, I'll need you to answer 3 questions. Let me start with the 3rd.